With the Steelers' 27-22 road upset of the Ravens today, Lamar Jackson falls to 3-6 in his regular season career against the Steelers. Derrick Henry was held under 100 yards today. For him, that's a win, especially for this defense coming off of a 250-yard game last week. They did end up with over 200 rushing yards, the Ravens did today, but Jackson was responsible for 50 of those, and Mitchell, he had a 50-plus yard run of his own, chipped in 76 on the day. So limiting Henry to under 100 rushing yards, especially for this defense, what they did last week, we're going to call that a win. Jumping into the game recap today, there was a big throw early in the first Ravens drive up the right sideline to Zay Flowers. It was ruled complete. The Steelers challenged it. That was unsuccessful. I saw the ball still moving as he bounced off the ground, as he hit on the white line out of bounds. The play stood as called, as it usually does when they don't want to take too risky of a stance. But we all know that wasn't a catch. If nothing else, that failed challenge did allow Benton to get back into the game. He was rolled up on the second snap of the game. TJ had some nice backside rush chase downs early in this game. A couple tackles for loss. It's not unusual to leave a guy unblocked on the backside of those zone runs. What is unusual is that guy being able to still chase those runs down. The reason they leave him unblocked is because he's so far away from the play. You don't think he's going to be able to insinuate himself into the action. The first failed third down for the Ravens, that bomb to Flowers, that could have been a touchdown if Jackson had led that a little bit more. I think he underthrew that a bit, and that gave Eccles the time to recover and make a play on that ball. By the way, Brandon Eccles, he made a play on the first 3 Ravens third downs of this game. 2 pass breakups, and then sandwich in between those, he had a sack. Eccles is far and away the Steelers' most consistent and best defensive back this year. Probably the best pickup that they made in the offseason. The first offensive snap of the game was a 55-yard bomb, a fade up the right sideline to Metcalf. A lot has been made in recent weeks about this team's inability to press the ball vertically, and they eliminated those rumors early and often today. And just for good measure, Rodgers was like, oh, you think I can't run anymore either? Let me just take this around the left side, scramble for a touchdown here. Lamar's next trip onto the field, he had a scramble for a first down. He had been dealing with some hamstring tenderness lately. He hadn't been 100% in his last couple games. Tony said after that first scramble, he saw some explosiveness. And I saw a guy who was afraid to go 100%, who still didn't fully trust the infrastructure of his body to perform as he expected it to. As I mentioned, that third down was a sack by Eccles to shut down that Ravens drive there. The Steelers did a good job hemming in Jackson and giving time for that help to get there, for Eccles to come in and finish up. As we know, whenever you play against Lamar Jackson, your pass rush is more about pass contain, because you can't just pin your ears back and try to get vertically, try to penetrate, because he'll just like sneak around you and run for 20, 25 yards. Rodgers' next time out got to third down. He had a nice sack illusion, was ranging to his right. It looked like he was just throwing that ball away, but it ended up in Calvin Austin's arms. As he was falling out of bounds, they called it complete. Ravens ended up challenging it. It was overturned. They said he didn't have control of that ball. Rodgers was livid, screaming at Mike Tomlin after that down for their inability to rush the line and get the next snap off before the Ravens got that challenge flag out. There were a couple of penalties in this game, a defensive pass interference and an illegal contact on Joey Porter Jr. that I thought should not have been called.
I'm not in trouble at all. No.
It was a 3-yard pass. The first one, a pass interference, a 3-yard pass interference. He's within that 5-yard allowance where you're allowed to jam him. Now I know when the pass is in the air, you got to hands off and you just play the ball. He was making a play on that ball. Did he maintain contact technically throughout that entire route? I guess, but he was making a play on the ball. He was jamming the guy. When you see the ball come into the air, hands off, you have to jump back and just give him that free space to complete the pass. You should be allowed to continue. I don't know.
We should be able to look at a little porn at work.
The second one, the illegal contact, the receiver was running a pick play. His intention on that play was to run into Joey and prevent him from getting over the top to help on that other guy who they were trying to get open. So he's maintaining contact. It's in his best interest to continue that contact with Joey. At a certain point, you see Joey throw up his hands and try to just jump off of him, but it was too late at that point. The damage had already been done. Darnell Washington had one of those hockey concussions where you fall on your head and he just took a hard fall, landed head first, and he needed help off the field from Metcalf et al. He obviously did not return in this game. I wouldn't be expecting him to be ready in time for next week's game. Andres Pete was also concussed in this game, as was Malik Harrison. Malik Harrison may have been unconscious for a second or two after running into Derrick Henry, taking a very hard hit. Looked like his neck got compressed a bit too. So I was very pleased to see when they came back from that commercial that he was up and moving, and it wasn't another Shazier situation. Knock on wood. Pray to the Lord we never see that again. Oh my God. Ryan Shazier, wherever you are right now, I hope your ears are tingling. I hope you're having a good holiday season, buddy. But man, was that hard to watch. Whew. The second deep ball to Metcalf. Boy, oh boy, what a fantastic job of getting the feet down. There was talk that maybe he didn't have possession of that ball, but that thing was clamped. That didn't move at all. It might have been loose, and a guy with a tiny bit smaller hands, a little bit weaker, who isn't the absolute unit that DK Metcalf is, would not have been able to bring that ball in clean. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that he clamped that one. The footwork and the handwork combined. Just a fantastic job there from Metcalf. James Pierre, has anyone ever had a bigger come-from-nowhere season? The way this guy's been maligned, he's been just a special teams contributor. He's been forced to step up a number of times. He's not been victimized once this year. There's been quarterbacks who have tried to go after him, and he's, made them embarrassed for that. We all know that Lamar Jackson and James Pierre are cousins. There was a play, Jackson was ranging to his right. Pierre was in zone defense. He's got eyes on Lamar. He knows there's stuff going on behind him he's responsible for, but I'm not going to let you embarrass me, Lamar. And so he was going to step up to try to stop Lamar from rushing. Lamar sees that, tries to go over his head, and he's like, nah, I'm going to take that with me. Pulls it down with one hand. Boy, it was good to see him at the podium answering questions from reporters after that game. Probably his first time in his career that he got to sit at a post-game press conference. Love to see that for the guy. Undrafted, right? James Pierre? What a story he is. The Steelers defense is second. They came into this game second in the NFL in takeaways and first in points off of takeaways. Bad defenses don't do that. For the second straight game, they held a very potent offense to 3 points for 29 and a half minutes. Bad defenses don't do that, folks. Inconsistent defenses do that. And why is this defense inconsistent? Oh, I don't know. Because they were on the field for 45 minutes last game. A good defense who is overexposed at times gives up 250 rushing yards to James Cook. That happens. A good defense also holds Derrick Henry to under 4 yards per carry. Going into the second half, Rodgers opened the second half the same way he opened the first half with the deep ball to DK Metcalf. John Harbaugh said coming out of the tunnel that, their offense isn't even that good. They just hit a couple fade balls. And then we'll shove those words right down your throat in one play, idiot. What a thing to say. And then to answer him on the first play. So poetic. Love these narratives that only you can find in the NFL. Now this one was a little bit different. It wasn't that fade from the first half. Rodgers had about 10 seconds in which to decide what to do with this thing. He ended up ranging to his left, eventually found DK. So it was good to see his ability to extend plays. And I'm not sure if this will go down in those AWS charts as a deep middle throw. It was pretty deep. It was around those numbers, the edge of the numbers on the left. But DK ran through the middle of the field to get open. And a lot of times when people look at these charts, they look at, oh, this is where he was standing when he caught the ball. That's not the middle of the field. Well, what if you see the trajectory where he was going? He was headed towards the middle of the field. He just came out of the middle of the field. That's using the middle of the field. Just because he wasn't standing in right between the numbers when he caught the ball doesn't mean you don't use the middle of the field. That's my biggest complaint as far as listening to the discourse of Steelers fans. Oh, use the middle of the field. They use the middle of the field, bro. It's kind of disheartening to have to settle for 3 after such a big time momentum offensive play. Settling for 3, they call that settling because you could get 7 if you go for it. But when you have Boswell and it's an automatic 3 versus a 20% chance at 7 eventually, maybe, why would you ever feel bad about taking the 3? It's like, on 3rd and long, handing off to your running back can be seen as a punt, as surrendering on that drive. But if your running back's Derrick Henry, you're never surrendering when you hand it off to that guy. Chris Boswell is the Derrick Henry of kickers. You don't ever have to apologize for running your best points threat onto the field. The second touchdown for the Ravens, the pass to Likely. Logan Lee was just completely displaced on that play, almost tackled by the right guard. No holding flag, of course. I'm not sure it deserved it. It was a pretty weak attempt by Lee. He's on his 8th or 9th life in the NFL at this point. If he wants to stick and make a career out of it, he's going to need to make something change fast. And what he showed on that play is not it. But the outside fade was working something strange for Rodgers today. He had a couple to Metcalf. There was one they could have had a touchdown for Metcalf, just slipped through his fingers early in that game. There was a big third down completion to Calvin Austin up the left sideline where he just got past his guy and that ball dropped in the bucket. You could see just millimeters past the fingers of the defender diving for it. Dropped right into Calvin Austin's arms. Beautiful throw. We don't talk enough about how thin the windows and the margins are in the NFL. There was another play, I think, looking for Darnell Washington over the middle on a slant where there was a guy underneath it and a guy over top. The guy underneath it, it was just, like I said, millimeters out of his grasp when he's diving for it. It was just out of Washington's grasp as well. But the way that Rodgers just threaded that in there, put it exactly where it needed to be to not get intercepted, that's your primary concern in that situation, is putting it where it needs to be to not get intercepted. Give your guy a chance, but as long as you're not giving them a chance. And then the next third down was the touchdown, swing pass to Jaylen Warren out wide to the right, where there was just a defensive miscue. Actually, Freiermuth and Warren were both wide open on that play. Freiermuth for a second was like, hey man, why don't you throw it? Oh wait, no, I'll just go block for this guy. Because, Freiermuth's a selfless guy. He doesn't care about, that kind of stuff. He put out a thing in the Tribune last year about how he doesn't like to celebrate when he scores because he thinks about his grandpa used to say, act like you've been there. I think that's quote, act like you've been there before. And his way, Pat Freiermuth's way of celebrating and honoring his grandfather is just hand the ball to the referee. There's something just so beautiful about that. It's understated. It's kind of a private moment. It's not the big flashy celebration. He's not pointing up the way Ben always used to. Not that I hated that from Ben, but just that little, it's just a moment between Pat and his grandfather. And I don't know, it's just beautiful to me. I think they did a great job containing Henry early. They did a much better job setting edges and forcing guys back to the middle where their help could get to it and make the play than they did last week. Did a better job at lane integrity, not giving those bounce back lanes as they did last week. They started to wear down in the second half as they did a week ago. But at least it wasn't those same two plays that were just spamming over and over. They were splitting between Henry and Jackson, those two guys, the best running quarterback of all time, maybe the best contemporary, certainly the best contemporary running back in the NFL today. Those two guys on the same offense, even if one of them is a little bit gimpy, are a dangerous thing to contend with. And the Steelers, I think, for the most part, did a pretty good job dealing with them today. The interception that could have been by Rodgers that was overturned, he said after the game he wasn't trying to catch that. He was just trying to bat it down. But when he felt the other guy trying to catch it, he knew I have to do something more aggressive here. And he referenced David Tyree in his interview, which going back to my junior year of high school, that Super Bowl, I was the only person at Matt Berkey's Super Bowl party who did not want the Patriots to complete that perfect season. So I was the only one psyched when David Tyree had that the catch against the helmet, the famous catch that we all know. We were able to retain the ball, but we did have to punt it back just 2 plays later. We were able to get them into a 4th and 5 situation, but they miraculously found 6 yards with Zay Flowers. I say miraculously. It was another one of those situations where it's 4th and 5. They have to get 5 yards to stay alive. Let's put all our defense 10 yards downfield. You're praying for your pass rush to get home or to bat the ball down. And if they don't, you're just going to tackle the catch, give them the first down, make sure they don't get a touchdown. That's what offenses mean when they talk about how the Steelers, we knew what this defense was going to do to us. So it came down to 4 minutes to go, 5 points down were the Ravens. They were at midfield. They were able to get into a 3rd and 9, the Steelers were, but Zay Flowers got loose in the middle for another 30-plus yard gain. Put the Ravens into the red zone, and then came the touchdown that wasn't, I think was Likely. I think he had 2 feet down, didn't quite get the third foot down. It was the opposite of the Roman Wilson play that we saw go in our favor a few weeks ago. So we all knew the rule, Steelers fans did. We weren't surprised when they came back incomplete pass because he didn't get that third foot down, didn't complete the football move. Lots of Ravens fans on the internet were angry about that, confused, saying, oh, the refs need to be investigated. It was a good job by Porter of sticking with that. We should make sure Joey Porter gets the credit for being the guy who knocked that ball away, because this is going to be shown on national TV a lot. They're going to talk about it a lot. I think Likely's name is going to come up a lot. I don't think Porter's name is going to be mentioned much at all. And that's a shame, because he did a great job of sticking with that play. I think most of us in the Steelers family were like, oh, great, they overturned that. The Ravens are just going to run out the rest of the clock and score anyway. We're not going to have a chance to do anything. The Steelers have made us into a bunch of sad sacks. At the surprise of many, the Steelers stood up at the 10-yard line with a good fourth down stand. Patrick Queen in the coverage. Unfortunately, the Steelers offense was unable to do anything with the ball. They had 2 rushing plays and then an incomplete pass. They did have to give it back. And then the not prevent, you know what I mean, where they just keep everything in front of you. Then that started happening, and the writing on the wall started to bleed through. But then Alex Highsmith, God bless him, just slammed the door on whatever the Ravens had brewing. After the game, Tomlin said he was appreciative of their efforts at least 4 or 5 times. Adam Thielen, appreciative of his effort. Who was that? Oh yeah, Marquez, appreciative of his effort. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, he had a good effort that I appreciate. Rodgers did take a bit of a shot at Mason Rudolph for being proactive in the downtime that they had. But when the refs were talking about, is this a touchdown or not touchdown for the Ravens there, he said, me and Will are just sitting there locked into what's going on the field. And Mason's running his mouth. Yeah. I mean, well, far be it for him to talk about how we're going to go and get these points back. Like, isn't that what your job is at that point? To not just be sitting there, oh, I wonder how this is going to turn out. But to be like, if it is a touchdown, this is what we're going to do. If it's not a touchdown, this is what we're going to do. I don't understand taking a shot at Mason there. He's just doing, especially with a backup quarterback, a scout team guy, that's what his job should be, as a sounding board to bounce the stuff off of.